So today's session is about mastering email etiquette and best practices to follow in Zoho Mail. As I've already given you my name, I'm Priyanka Gyanashekhar, and I've been working in Zoho Mail as a product expert. And my forte is to meet such beautiful customers online and offline, and I provide them webinars and sessions and in-person trainings for them to have a better understanding of the product. And apart from my professional introduction, in my personal life, I love dancing and I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. So that's about me. Moving into the session's agenda, we're going to talk about the importance of email etiquette and why you need to adapt to the same. It's something we'll be discussing. And then we'll be talking about how you can structure an email, starting from the components such as subject, greetings, message, sign-off, signature, etc. And then we'll be moving into the features that will aid to enhance your email etiquette. And finally, we will be covering the common mistakes to avoid. Please note, when it comes to email etiquette, it is all about most of the things that we shouldn't be doing, right? So when we avoid that itself, we've already achieved this particular goal. So stick on to the session, stay until the end of the session to also see what you should avoid when you want to adapt to email etiquette. All right. Now, starting off, you've got mail. We all know email is quite efficient and it is the most effective way of communicating in a professional environment, right? So no matter what we feel about it, at the end of the day, it is an unavoidable necessity. So some of us might be even using inbox that is sending and receiving and replying to emails all day long. Or you might also have situations where not even a single day passes by without you having to compose an email. In those situations as well, we understand that email is quite inevitable, right? So when email is quite inevitable, let's also learn some rules and unspoken rules for us to understand how you can make your emails look a lot more professional than it already does. Shall we do that? For that, we have to see the picture of email etiquette. What is an email etiquette is? It is the code of conduct that guides behavior when composing and responding to emails. So if you're going to ask me if I'm going to follow email etiquettes, what is the advantage? Then it makes your communication a lot more effective. And not just that, it makes you to give a positive impression about yourself to your professional circle, to your business clients, and even your potential employer, right? And the importance of same is that it shows that you care about the relationship. It shows you uphold your professional integrity, and it also lets you represent your company in a positive light, right? That's about email etiquette. We'll learn that entirely topic-wise, okay? First, we'll see what is the difference between personal and a professional email ID. So when do we use a personal email ID? We know the answer, which is it is reserved for the closed ones, for friends, for family, and for colleagues who are close to family. We can use it with them. But are we really strict about it? If not, let's make it very strict that we only use personal email ID to message these people alone. If it is going to be a situation where you have to send a job application to an employer using your personal email ID, make sure you craft your email ID in a way that it looks professional. Okay, that's the second point. But I would like to show you some bad examples of how it should never be, which is priya.qt@domain.com or bossboy@domain.com. These funky names can never be used. Or even if you're using numbers as well, don't use too many of them. Okay. So here you can see the bad examples. It's funky enough to use these things, but it's never going to work in a professional environment. Okay. So let's avoid creating such names. And how would you go about it is, in a professional email ID, it is to be used only for your business purposes. Just as how I'm emphasizing that the personal email ID reserves for your personal purposes, same way your professional email ID should be strictly used for your business purposes, such as inside your organization or outside your organization. Whoever you're trying to converse inside or outside your organization, you have to use this email ID. This email ID lets you to represent your company or your firm. Also, it reflects your designation. If you're using a designation-based email ID, then it reflects your designation as well. Example is this: divya.sean@domain.com is professional enough. And you also have finance.head. This is a designation-based email ID. So if you want to create one as such, you can do so by following these types. That is finance.head@domain.com. That can also be created. So just by in case if you are using a personal email ID to send a job application for some professional purpose as such, then you can create one like this: first name dot the last name at the domain.com. That is a good one to use. Okay. So now we know what is a personal and a professional email ID and for what purposes we need to use the same. Now, since we talked about a professional email ID, let's just get an idea of how it can be crafted. So here, first and last name can be used for the username of the email ID section. Last and first name can be used. First name only or last name only, followed by the domain. And you also have designation. So when designation comes in a picture, then you have to use a domain that is specific to the firm. Okay, if you're using marketing head, finance head, etc. as such, when you go with the designation, also associated with a domain which is specific to the firm. And then you also have make use of a domain. We never know how important this is, because when you add a domain in your email ID, then when somebody is receiving your email, they will know that this particular email has been sent by a legitimate person and not by any random person who wants to spam me or send me some false information. So domain holds such integrity. So make sure you buy a domain for your firm. If you are starting up something as an enterprise, then you can buy a domain for yourself and associate to your user address. So that's about how you would create one. And here are some samples. That is first name dot initial at domain.com and designation at domain.com can be used. So now that we saw what is the difference between the email IDs and how you can create a professional email ID, next is the field, that is to CC and BCC field. So when do we use this, and when exactly should we choose to place the particular recipients in these fields? Is that when you go with two fields, it says, hey, I expect a reply from you is what you are trying to say. So when you paste someone in the to field, make sure it is the actual recipient, and you make sure that the only person who is pasted there is them. If you want to just loop somebody in, then this is not a space for them. And then comes the CC field. CC field implies that I wish to keep you looped in. So I don't directly expect a response from you, but I wish to keep you looped in this particular mail thread. And you also have, I hope you could move this forward depending on the response. So what this implies is that when you copy a person in the CC and when the recipient is replying back with some message, so depending on the message, if this person needs to do some consequent action, then you can have them in the CC field as well. Okay. So these are the purposes. You paste a person in the CC fields, and then you have BCC. This implies I wish to share this and keep you anonymous. If you would like to secure the particular email address and not to reveal their identity to the person who you are trying to send a mail to, then you can simply paste them in the BCC field. So the recipient will never know who is copied in the mail. And then you have, I wish to save you from the reply all loop. This is a common mistake. So what happens is we will receive a mail and so many people will be copied in the CC field without checking that if all of these people are relevant enough to receive a reply from me. We will simply hit the reply all button and then we will send a reply. Not always all the people mentioned in the CC field requires to receive a response from you. Instead, if you wish to save some people in this scenario, you can paste them in the BCC. So if the recipient accidentally hits their reply all button, this person is saved from that. Okay. So those two are the purposes. I wish to share this and keep you anonymous, and I wish to save you from the reply all loop. And now we are here at a section that is, did you know? Here you can group your contacts in Zoho Mail. Let's say you want to paste people in the to field, CC field, or BCC fields. Instead, you having to type out your team or members or a particular set of group. Instead, you can create a contacts group under the feature contact category, and you can directly or instantly insert them. How to do that is here. When I'm trying to create a new email, this is your Zoho Mail platform. Here in the to field, you have a drop down, right? Clicking on which you can select the people for who you want to create a category for. And I'm saying this is team 4 or team 5 in my department. I'm going to insert these people. So once I insert them, this is the first instance, but the next instance will not require me to even choose these people. Rather, I just have to type out that category name and it will be listed for me. Sorry. Here, you have the team 5 listed, clicking on which those users will be inserted instantly. Okay, so that's about your categories that you can create in your contact section. All right, now moving on. Next, you have the structure of an email. So I leave it to you to first guess, and then I'll eventually give you the answer. First, what gives an idea of the email? That is what this email is about or what content it may contain. What gives the idea? It's going to be the subject line, right? And then comes start your email right. So when you get into the content, the first thing you do matters. It needs to sound polite. And that is going to be your greetings. And then draft content to achieve the intended goal. The intended goal is the actual purpose of the email. And that's going to be your messaging part. And then leave a good impression when you conclude. So when you go to the end of the particular mail content, you're going to sign off. And then comes your signature. You have to formulate your signature in a way it looks professional. It just can't hold your name alone. Okay. So this is the structure of an email. We're going to see how you can formulate all of these categories one by one. First, we're going to see subject line. When we talk about subject is quite important because that is exactly what gives the idea that what this email is about. If they're going to categorize it as a spam email or an important one, an urgent one, or an irrelevant one, if they're going to categorize with all of these things, then definitely it's about the subject. So make sure your subject conveys exactly what the email contains or what the email's goal is about. Okay. So when you compose your subject, make sure you have it in your mind as to what is the content of the email and what is the goal of the email. If you are not ready there or ready yet, then you can finish the body of the email and then you will have a clearer idea of what the email is about, and then you can move forth and formulate your subject. Okay, so you have to keep these two things in your mind. And then some rules are keep it crisp and direct. Your subject line cannot be too lengthy or too short. It can be between 4 to 7 words. Okay, and avoid spam words. Even punctuations are included in this. So if you're going to use words like free, urgent, and use a lot of exclamations, etc., though your intention was to not send a spam email or irrelevant email, it could be a legitimate one, but the person, whoever is trying to read the subject line, on the first look, they will think this might be a spam email and they may choose to ignore it or even move it to spam. So make sure you never use anything that may give the recipient an idea that this could be a spam email. And then you have use a CTA if needed. So join, register, all of those words can be used just to give an even more idea of what this email is about for the recipient. Okay, so these are all the instructions. And now let's move forward with seeing some examples of how you can craft your subject. Now this is a weak example. Meeting date changed. Can you see the vagueness there? That is, what meeting is changed, when it is changed, what this person is talking about. Nothing is actually conveyed well here. But compared to this, This is a strong subject line. Board meeting moved to Tuesday on this day. This is exactly what the email contains. Why it was moved or the reasons can be stated more, or about the meeting, the briefing of the meeting, the agenda of the meeting can be given in the meeting, given in the particular mail. But here in the subject, what was the main content? That the meeting has been postponed. So that can be conveyed in this strong subject. And then you have another example for a weak subject, sharing with you a file for your consideration. Again, this is a little vague because what file is being shared and what this person needs to do with the file is not that much clear compared to this strong subject line, that is approval required, sharing a resume. It's quite simple. The resume is being shared and this person needs to approve the same. So depending on that, they can manage this particular mail and attend to it at the appropriate time, right? And this again, I wanted to show because found a candidate, please provide approval. Now the wordings are good enough, but can you see the punctuations that is used? When you see these smileys or punctuations shown like this, an immediate look will make me feel this could be a spam email unless and until I take my time to read the entire subject. But compared to this, you can go with a subject line like this, which has the lesser and the appropriate punctuations. Require approval, found a suitable candidate. This is more than sufficient. Okay. So now we saw some examples of what are the weak subject lines and strong subject lines. Okay. Make sure that we stick to those subject lines. Now, next topic is going to be about greetings. So now that we saw email ID, then we saw how to use the fields to CC and BCC, and then we finished off with the subject line. And now we are moving into greetings. So when you start your email, it's supposed to be polite. It's supposed to be rightly respected. So for a formal email, you can go with hi and hello. Okay. So we don't have to still, stick to the same practice where once upon a time, emails were just a digital version of an email letter. So we stuck to the most respectful way of greeting a person. But this is 2022. Email environment has also evolved. So you can go with a hi and a hello for a formal email as well. Okay. And if it is extremely formal, that is if you're doing a official briefing or an official invitation is being sent, then you can go with a dear. Okay. And then you have informal. For informal, you can go with hey John or hey there is fine. And then you have avoid overusing. Now this is a tip. Okay. Because if you are having a conversation with a person and if the conversation is quite active, you don't have to go with hi every time. Please don't do that. Because even I was a person who was doing that. So let's not do that where you keep on sending hi for every reply that you send. If it is an active conversation, let's treat it as such. Okay, just send the reply or the response that the particular message needs. Okay, maybe we can reserve the greetings for the every sunrise. Okay, every morning I try to resume that conversation with that person. I can greet that person and start. Okay, that can be used. So avoid overusing. Then avoid going too impersonal. That is, for example, to whomever it may concern. Now, this is very impersonal because whoever is receiving it or whichever set of people who is receiving this will never know who have to take it up unless and until they sit and read the entire email, right? So that is quite not convenient as well. So what you can do is, and at least you can mention the designation name or the department name or the team's name, at least for people who receive it will have an idea of who should have to take this. Okay, so make sure it is not too impersonal. And then you have spell the name right. So you can ask me, should this even be mentioned? But this could be a huge mistake because when they start to read the email after they've gone past the subject, they will first read the hi and following the name, right? If the name itself is misspelled, they would feel you didn't give the enough significance for the particular mail while you were drafting it. And there itself, the impression is a little bit disturbed. So make sure you double check that the name is correctly spelled. And if it is a formal email, it is for you to even triple check if the name is correctly spelled. You have hi John and dear Divya Sean can be used. And if it is a person who you are formally conversing for the first time, you can also use the entire name that is used in their signature. Okay, you don't have to use the first name for the first time itself. You can use the entire name that is mentioned in their signature. Okay, and then you have do not use nicknames. So as much we love to use nicknames for people, that cannot work in a formal environment. For example, if you're calling Priyanka as Priya or maybe Stephen as Steve, we cannot do that in a professional environment. No matter how many times you've conversed with that person, a professional email should stay professional. So make sure that you do not nickname the person. You always mention the entire name of the person while you greet them. Okay? And then comes the messaging part. We've gone past the greetings part now. Now we are seeing the messaging part. I wanted to segregate this messaging part into 3 categories, which is initiation, content, and conclusion. Okay, you'll see why I did this. Let's just start with the initiation for now. In the initiation part, how do you start the email is quite important, because we will craft the subject and then we'll say hi and everything, and then we will know exactly what we want to convey. But when we want to start the mail, we'll be thinking how to start this email. This happens to me quite a lot. So here are some tips. If you are a person who gets stuck in that part, this will be really useful for you. You have introduction. So if you do not know this person, if you think that this person may not have an idea about you, go with the formal introduction first. That could be like, my name is Dave and I'm a senior marketer at ABC firm. That is a quite a decent introduction for yourself, right? So you can give an introduction of yourself and then you can go forth with the conversation. And then you have reminder of previous conversation can be done to initiate the mail. That is, reminder of previous conversation means, let's say you were talking about a particular topic and the resuming of the particular conversation is about that topic. Then you can say, about this topic, I wanted to talk to you about this. You also have some examples such as discussed, to follow up with, and you can continue with that topic. So this way you can start an email. And then you have personalize your content. Here, usually what we will say, that is, I hope this email finds you well. So instead of going with that all the time use statements, we can personalize a little bit, such as, let's say, if the person is from a break, okay, they've come just back from a holiday, then you can say, it's great to have you back, or I trust you had a well-deserved break. And then you can continue with that particular topic explanation, okay? And last of all, you have reasons for writing to them. Even though you gave in a subject, it is also good if you are giving a huge briefing for them about something. Just tell them what you need them to do or what you're trying to do in that particular mail, okay? Such as, this is to confirm your availability for a following meeting, a conference, or an event. And or you can also use, this is to share updates to you about this particular candidate or to give you feedback of this particular event, something like that. So you can say what this email is about in just one line, and then you can go forth with the briefing. Okay, so these are the ways which you can adapt in order for you to start an email. That is, you can go with an introduction, you can remind them about the previous conversation you had with them, or personalize the content depending on how much you know about them, and the reason for writing to them, saying what this email is about. You can just give a one-liner context and then you can move forth with the email. Then the actual content comes into picture. When you talk about the actual content, you need to know we have to get to the point, okay? Though some of us could be really good at writing, to bring out the best writer in us, email is not the right space. Because in a formal email, we should have it in mind that people are quite busy and they are trying to handle their emails amidst of that. So make sure you get to the point, okay? And then you have talk about one topic at a time, okay? We might make this mistake. That is, when we send an email to a person, that person might be involved in 2-3 things with us. So about those 3 topics, we'll just write down all the information and just talk about all 3 topics and we just send it to them, because those 3 topics are involved with this person. But when you do that, we have a disadvantage, which is the person will definitely take enormous time to reply because they will have to find solution for all those 3 questions or queries you raised with them. Second, when they see such a mail, they might choose to ignore it for the timing, thinking that this is a huge mail, this is definitely going to consume time for me, so I'll get to it later, right? So these 2 disadvantages it will hold, and it might not be very clear to them as well. And they might also get into a mentality of urging a reply for you. So make sure you reserve 1 email for 1 topic. Maximum you can use 2 different or use it for 2 different topics. Okay. But do not exceed that. Reserve your emails for specific topics. And also when you're talking about 1 topic in a thread, never go to another individual thread and talk about that topic again. Continue in this thread so the entire conversation about the topic resides within that thread. Okay. So that's about talk about 1 topic at a time. And then you have segment your emails better. So when you compose your emails, we need to know that we have to segment it better so it is easily readable. Because if you're going to write paragraphs and paragraphs, again, it will give an impression that it is a complex email or it's going to consume time, etc. as such. So never let's leave space for those situations. Rather, segment it in a way that it looks a lot more readable and gives an impression that they can easily handle the email. Next comes hyperlink your text. If you are sharing URLs, do not just copy paste the URL just like that in your email, because when a person is reading the content of the email, they will have to skip the URL part and then go to the next content. Instead, if you're just going to hyperlink on the particular text, they will read the text and move to the next content, and they will also know that they can click on that particular hyperlink to get to that URL. Okay. So these are all the points we have to keep in mind when we compose the actual content of the mail, that is getting to the point, talking about 1 topic at a time, segmenting your emails, and hyperlinking your text. Okay. Now, this is a bad example. Here you can see there are 2 different paragraphs, and if you have to first open this email in the morning, if you are in the mood, you will definitely read each line. But if you are not, you would rather skip it. You would rather want to read it at a later time, right? And here you can also see links. So let's say I'm intensely reading these particular lines. When I get here, I have to skip this entire link. Then I have to go here, right? Same goes here as well. So the look of the email itself is disrupted a little. Whereas if this is going to be a bad example comparatively, then what is a good example? This is the good example. Here you can see that the particular project has been hyperlinked. And here again, the previous projects has been hyperlinked. And here you can see a statement saying this is to confirm that we've reached an agreement. Now I want to know what this agreement is about. Then I can see some points being bulleted as well. So I can clearly see what the agreement terms are. And finally, I can also see some confirmation from them. And I can move forth with this email. Now this is a very nicely spaced and segmented email. And since it is hyperlinked, it is also good to look at, right? So this is a good example of how you can talk about the actual content of your email. And then this is a quote I want all of us to remember while we are trying to compose an email, which is, assume everyone you are communicating with is smarter than you and cares more than you and is busier than you. Why smarter than you? Because sometimes we tend to give more and more explanation in the mail, thinking this person may not understand. Or cares more than you. We sometimes would like to emphasize saying how important this particular task is and how much we want them to do it immediately. We have to understand they do care about it and is busier than you. That is where when we write a lot of fancy words, a lot of extra words than relevant, then we have to understand they are busier than you. So it is always necessary for us to just give the point saying this is what I need and this is what is the purpose of the email, right? So always keep this quote in your mind when you compose an email. This particular quote was given by Merlin Mann, and this man was the one who coined the term that is inbox zero. With that being said, let's move into the next topic, that is message conclusion. We saw message initiation, how to initiate a mail, how the content has to be, and now we are seeing the conclusion part. Here in the conclusion, how you can conclude an email is, once you are done with your points, you just can't say regards and you can't put your name. You have to conclude it in a specific way, for which you can adapt these ways. That is gratitude, saying thank you or thank you for your time, or you can tell your expectations, such as awaiting for your response, hoping to hear from you soon can be used. Or a question can also be used because they will feel a lot inclusive to send a response. That is, what are your thoughts on this? Or shall we move forward with this approach? So whatever you talked about, if you are expecting a response from them, or if you're expecting a suggestion or a feedback from them, just put it as a question at the end, and then you can put your signature. So with that question, they exactly know what they have to draft in order to give you the right explanation. And then you have welcoming message. Here, you can say, feel free to reach out, or have a wonderful day, and you can conclude your email. Okay. So these are the ways which you can use in order for you to conclude an email after the actual purpose has been delivered. Okay. Then some of the points to remember when you compose an email is use right fonts. Why am I even talking about these particular topics is that if you don't use the right fonts, it might even hurt the eye of the recipient, or it might be not readable for the recipient. So always stick to a standard black color and use a standard font size. So you may be replying and sending emails to people of different age categories. So they should be able to read your email. So make sure it is of a standard size. And don't bold or italize often, because bold and italize is used for emphasizing a phrase or a word. Okay, and bold can also be used for headings, or if you want to bold a particular date, time, so that the attention is definitely given to that, right? So you can bold and italize those things, but not too often in a mail. Okay, and you also have use readable font family. You can stick to some standard font family like Times New Roman, Zoho Puvi. All of that can be used because that is something that you can use in a professional mail. Okay, so that's about use right fonts. And then you have check grammar. We are all really good at English, but it is also really important for us to proofread for grammar when we finish a content. Okay, because if there is a grammar error, when the person reading it will unconsciously get an impression that you do not pay enough attention to this mail. Okay, so make sure we proofread the grammar. Then you have use a tool to monitor. Though we have the time to proofread, it's also okay to have a tool. We have a lot of free tools available online. We can also use a tool to proofread the particular mail. So as and when we type a sentence, it will make all the grammar, it will identify all the grammar errors, and depending on that, you can make the necessary changes. Then you have spell check. I'm just giving you an example of a lot of words in which we tend to make the spelling errors. So make sure you do not make those errors while you use these words. Okay. And then you have use sentence case. So sentence case are ones where you capitalize the first letter of a word. You have to capitalize the first letter of a sentence and proper nouns. For example, the project sake has received approval from ABC company. So the project sake, the name of the project needs to be capitalized, the first letter, and same applies for the company name. Okay? Make sure you stick to this. And then you have use punctuations. For example, punctuations are quite important. Here you can see thanks, thanks with an exclamation, and thanks with nothing at all. First thanks has a period to it. So when you see that, you almost feel like they're giving you a statement. Thanks. Just get off with it. Is how it feels, right? But that's not how you should express your gratitude. And then you have thanks with an exclamation. So that exactly gives you the feeling that this person is really grateful about it. And then you have thanks with nothing. So it has no expressions at all. So we have to use punctuations where it is absolutely necessary. Okay. And then you have include some terms or some rules I want to discuss about punctuations is include terminal punctuation mark in your email. that is a full stop, a question mark, an exclamation is quite important, then you have to include it. Because if you don't include a question mark, for example, then whoever is reading it will not know if it's a statement or a question itself. So if the perceiving is wrong, then they will not send you a right response. So make sure you include the right punctuations. And then you have use exclamation marks sparingly, because sometimes what happens is we will use a lot of exclamation mark because we are quite excited about the mail. But the more you use, the more artificial the particular mail looks. Okay, so use it in a limited manner and appropriately. Okay, and then you have right expressions. Talking about right expressions, avoid negativity. Okay, how much ever the matter is pressing, do not use words like grave, and don't use extremely. Don't use such words which will just stand in the borderline of your formality. Don't do that. Rather use words like challenges, which gives a positive impression but also emphasizes on the current situation. Okay, and then you have avoid sarcasm. Let's avoid sarcasm at all cost, because though we could be really good at it, but whoever is receiving the mail may not understand or see it that way, right? So it is just not advised to include sarcasm in your professional emails. And then you have do not use all caps. This is because sometimes we will only intend to highlight that, but what happens is whoever is reading it will feel like this person is yelling at me. That is a subconscious way of understanding when all the words or the sentence has been used in a capital letter, right? So do not use all caps. But if the actual intention is to yell at the person, that's a different case. But if that's not your intention, make sure you avoid this. And then you have avoid adjectives that could make you look overly emotional, like I'm earning to have a meeting with you, I'm trying to finish this off, etc. Such just don't fit in a formal email. Okay, never use adjectives that could make you look a lot emotional. And then you have avoid emojis, though we could feel that using emojis can actually express the actual emotions, it's not right or not preferred to include it in the formal emails. Okay, so at all costs, you can also avoid emojis in your emails. So that's about the points you have to remember. Use the right fonts, check for your grammar, check for your spell checks, and use sentence cases, use punctuations, right expressions, and avoid emojis. All right. And then now we are in a did you know section. Here we are talking about you can now collaborate and work with your drafts. So since we talked about your purpose delivery, your initiation, your conclusion of your email, we may still have some doubt that we are humans. It's not unnatural. We will want our colleagues to have a look at our email and say, this is good to go, right? So for that, what we would do, we would call the person and we will recite the particular mail, or just take a screenshot and send it to them, or we will simply forward it to them. Let's not do that. Rather, what you can do is you can share the mail using Zoho Mail's feature, that is share draft. For that, you have to click on the new mail option, and here you can compose a simple mail. Okay. And once you do that, here you have share draft option available for you. Clicking on which you can choose the person to who you want to share the draft with. And whoever you've shared with will have access to the draft. That is only the view access. And he or she can give you feedback and suggestions. And depending on the feedback and suggestions they drop in the comment box here that you can find here, you can make the necessary changes to this draft and you can redraft and send it to the particular person. Okay, so that is how you can get the feedback and suggestions from your colleagues with just one click. All right, so that's about your share draft option. And then you have attachments. Okay, so when I talk about attachments, you might feel, what is there to even talk about attachments? Just have to attach it and send it. No, it has to be compatible with all the providers, right? So there are incidents in the recent times that there are a lot of malwares and that is corrupting the system. So this comes with an attachment. Okay, so for that, certain format of attachments are being restricted in the provider's level. So make sure that whatever attachment you're trying to share is acceptable in all the providers. And then you have Share huge attachments via a link after uploading it on cloud storage. If you are deciding to share your huge attachments, then make sure that you don't just share it, rather you upload it on a cloud storage and then share the link. And cloud storage, when it comes to Zoho, we have Zoho Work Drive, which you can check it out and you can also make the platform, and it definitely will benefit you. And then you have mention the attachment in the email content. Now, why is this important? Is that when you tend to read a mail, you might miss the attachment. You will just read the particular content of the mail and you will just move forward. To avoid such situation to happen for your receiver, you can also mention there is an attachment that I've shared in this mail. Do check it out. A simple line as such will make sure that the person checks out your attachment. Okay. And then you have give a summary about the attachment. Talking about the summary, this is not compulsion, but you can still do it. For example, if you're sharing a vendor's detail, you can see the vendor. You can just say that this particular attachment contains the vendor details, when to procure the product, and what the product is. You can just say these are the details that this particular attachment contains. So even before they open the attachment, they definitely know what the attachment is going to contain, and it won't be a surprise to them. Okay. So these are the points you have to keep in mind when you send an attachment. That is, send an attachment that is compatible for all the providers. Share huge attachments via a link after uploading it on cloud storage. Mention the attachment in the email content and give a summary about the attachment. Next is going to be sign off. So how you end the email. Here you have best regards and all the best. All of this is good to go. And you also have kind regards, which you can use in a formal email. And then you have sincerely. Let's reserve sincerely for very, very formal email because it sounds too formal. And then you have yours. If you're using yours, it's too intimate and it's definitely not for formal emails. And then goes cheers. Cheers is way too casual. So depending on the sender, you can choose to include this or not. But I'm just giving an idea of what are these. Sign off gives an impression. Okay. And then goes your signature. When you are designing your signature, make sure you include these fields, that is name, designation or job title. Your phone number could be optional if you don't want to have a personal connect with them as such. You don't have to give your phone number. And then goes your company website. An example of the same is here you can see Paula, digital marketer at Zilker Inc. And this particular firm is being hyperlinked. So when you click on the same, it goes to the website of the firm. Okay. So this is a perfect signature. If you want, you can include a phone number as well. Okay. This is how you design your signature for your formal emails. Anything more than that is just too much for a signature. Okay. That's about your signature composition. And then again, we are in the did you know section. Here we're going to talk about templates. I'm sure most of you would have used templates already because templates are ones that is going to reduce a lot of time. That is, obviously, if you're going to sit and type out the same email again and again and again, it's going to consume a lot of time, right? So to save you from that, you have templates for your aid. And to utilize the same, what you need to do is here in the folder section on the left side, you have templates option, clicking on which you can create your template by clicking on the create template option. You can give in the subject, you can compose the message, and you can save it. You can also select a category and you can save it under that. So when you're trying to retrieve a template, then you can retrieve it from the right category. Okay. So giving you an idea of the same, let me just click on a particular template. Yeah. So here you can see a template where the subject is given, the content has been chosen, and you can also include an attachment if you want. And you see a pin icon where you can include an attachment. And this definitely does happen for us. When we search for an attachment is when it will definitely go somewhere where we cannot find it at all. So rather, you can save it as an attachment here, that is a template here, and you can anytime retrieve it you want. So this is about templates. Now moving on. We have sending or replying to emails. So what do we have to keep in mind when we send and reply to emails is that we can add read receipt. So when we do that, we know the status of the email we sent, if the person has read it or not. And by doing this, you can stay updated on your email status. And then comes reply to all emails promptly. What this implies is when you're trying to reply to an email, make sure you reply at the right time. That is within 24 hours is a standard time. Within 24 hours, you have to reply to your emails. Okay. If you are replying after that, make sure you also given a line saying, I'm sorry for the delay in replying to this email. That is the formal way of dealing with that. Because you cannot say, I needed time to reply to this email, so that person should understood about this. No, we cannot be like that. Here you have, take your time, but keep them informed. You can rather do this if you think that I might need some more time to learn about this issue and then I can send a reply. Then you can just state that same to them, saying I need more time on understanding this and will reply to you by tomorrow or next week. So when you do that, whoever has sent you the email will not be waiting for you to reply. Okay, so that's about take your time for the email that needs your time, but keep the recipient informed about it. And then use snooze. So since you will have a lot of emails to deal with on a day-to-day basis, you should prioritize them. To prioritize, you can use this feature called snooze. How do you do that is, when you read an email and if you feel that this email can be dealt with after an hour or during the evening, then you can simply click on the snooze button and you can snooze the email. What happens is, this email will disappear from the inbox and it comes back to the inbox after the stipulated time or the specified time. Okay. And then you have acknowledge your email. Acknowledging your email under the topic of reply to all emails promptly is that, let's say you've received an email which was not actually intended to be sent to you. What we would do is, okay, maybe this person has sent me wrongly and we will just move forth with it and we will just attend to the next email. But according to email etiquette, what we need to do is we have to send a formal reply saying, I think you pasted the wrong person and I hope you just send it to the right person. Just to acknowledge that I've read the email, but it is not intended to send to me. Okay, when you do that, whoever sent it will immediately know that they've sent it to the wrong person and they can at least correct it. Else, they'll be waiting for the reply, and very late is when they will get to know that this email was sent to the wrong person, and maybe it would be too late for them to correct that mistake. So make sure that when you receive a mail from a wrong person or the message itself was not intended to be sent to you, then you can simply acknowledge the mail saying, please send it to the right person. And then you have talk about one topic at a time. Again, we're talking about this where we're going to discuss about the disadvantage, that is make it easy for the recipient to respond. So only when you talk about specific topics in one email, the person, whoever is reading it, will be able to understand it better and also will have the time to reply for it. Else they might take huge amount of time in order to reply for a single email. Use a single thread for every topic. If you are using a particular thread to talk about one topic, continue in that thread rather than using a new thread. Okay. And then you have stick to working hours. Now, if we have not been doing this practice, then I think that I would highly recommend to adapt this practice of sticking to working hours. So if you're going to send a mail to a person on an odd time, then it simply means we are not respecting their working hours, right? So let's never do that. Instead, if you feel I might forget about this mail or I've drafted it and I definitely want to send it right away, rather you can schedule it. Okay, when you schedule the mail, your work is done and the mail will reach them at the ideal time. Okay, so stick to working hours for that reason. And second is, when you don't stick to working hours, you are also unconsciously telling the person that you can also connect with me, try to contact me on an odd time, right? So that is not what you want to convey. So here are some examples, that is reply within 24 hours. That is obviously important, but if you have gone past the working hours, make sure you schedule it. Also, you can maintain it as a task. If you feel you'll forget it, or if you feel you have to manage it at a later time and you might have other works coming up, then you can organize your work and you can also maintain it as a task. Even handling emails is considered to be a task. So you can maintain it as a task as well. So now we have a did you know section where we are going to talk about 3 different features. And first is your scheduling emails. So you can use scheduling feature to send emails at an ideal time. And the second feature is maintain a task to manage your emails for improved productivity. And third is snoozing. How would you snooze your email is something I'll be showing you. Shall we see all of them? Here, when I'm trying to compose an email, again, I'm going to, is this email available now? Okay. Right. I've composed a single email. Now you can click on the send later option in order for you to schedule this email. Okay. You can schedule it for the default timings available, or you can choose custom date and time. You can choose the date, the time. You can also choose the time zone. So if the person is from a different time zone, then you can also choose a specific time zone and choose to send it to the person. When you hit the send button, what happens is this particular mail will be saved in the outbox. Yes, here you can see in the outbox is where it will be stored, clicking on which you'll be able to see the email and you can stop the scheduling anytime you want. Okay, so this is about your scheduling emails. And then we were talking about maintaining it as a task. What was that? Is let's say I open an email and I feel a task has been assigned to me. So instead of me having to go to the next email, I have to make sure I take a note of this or I write it down somewhere. Instead, I can create a task out of this itself right from here. How do I do that is you have a drop down here in the very mail itself, clicking on which you can say add to and you can choose task. So when you do that, this particular mail will be turned into a task. You can also set up a due date saying within tomorrow I have to finish this, and you can save it. Once you save it, this task will be available in the task portal, available in the suite of application that comes along with Zoho Mail. And here you can see the task that you've created. Can you see the task? From here, let's say I'm seeing all of my tasks. I can see a lot of tasks being listed and one particular task says it has an email. What is it about? Then I can click on the email icon here and I can get to the email as well instantly. Okay, so that is how you can handle your emails. You can turn them into tasks and how you can access that particular email inside the task portal. Okay, and the last feature that I want to show you in this did you know section was to snooze your emails. Let's say I open an email and I feel this particular email can be held a little later or handled a little later. Then you can say snooze option, clicking on which you can snooze this particular mail for a custom date and time, 10 minutes, 1 hour, all the default option available you can choose, or you can also customize the date and time. Just going to say next week. When I say the same, then that particular mail will disappear from my actual inbox and then it will reappear when the specified time was mentioned. Okay, it will reappear when the specified time comes. So this is about how you will snooze your emails. This helps you better with prioritizing your emails, where you can attend to the emails which you have to attend to immediately, and you can snooze the emails which you can attend to later. So that is about your scheduling emails, maintaining it as a task, and snoozing your emails. Now moving forward, you have follow-up emails. So now you may ask, sending emails, following up emails, what's the difference? Following up emails is when you send an email and when you are expecting a reply from the particular person. If you haven't got one, you can send a follow-up email for that. Or if you want to also follow up for a particular topic, you shall send one. Okay. When you compose a follow-up email, you have to keep these things in mind. One is you have to open with context. Okay. Let's say you've sent a particular issue to a person and the person hasn't handled the issue yet. Okay. Then when you send a particular follow-up email, you should say, this particular mail was shared with you or this particular mail was sent to you on the date, or you can also specify the subject with the subject as such. Okay. Please check it out. And you can say, clearly state the purpose, saying, I want you to do this for me after reading the email. And you can also say specify response time. You can also say, I expect you to do this for me before this particular date. Or you can say, I expect a response from you by today or tomorrow. That can also be sent. So these are the rules which you need to follow when you craft a follow-up email. Open with context, clearly state a purpose, and specify the response time. Okay. When you do this, you let your follow-up emails to back your actual emails. So this is about follow-up emails. When you talk about follow-up emails, we are again coming back to a did you know section where we can automate follow-up emails as well. Why do we even need to automate it is that when you have to send follow-up emails and all, that is again added responsibility. So you don't have to add this to your agenda. Rather, you can automate it while you create the actual mail itself. Let me do that. When you create a mail, let's say this is a very complex email that I'm trying to create. Okay. And here you have the reminder option, clicking on which you have the option called if no replies until. So I'm saying after I send this mail, if that person does not reply to me by tomorrow, then I want to remind the person with this particular message. You can customize the message as well. Okay, you can say this particular message was sent on this date, and I would like to have, expect a reply from you by today, and I want you to solve this. So you can customize your message here, and you can add the reminder. Only on an account if the person hasn't replied to you, this particular follow-up email will be triggered. If the person has replied to you, then it will not be simply triggered. Okay. So that's about your follow-up emails automation. And then you have email forwarding. When you forward your emails, first thing we need to keep in mind is we are forwarding something that was personally sent to us. Even if it is to a professional email ID, it was sent to you by pasting your email ID in the to section. So if you're forwarding it to someone, make sure you get the consent of the person. And on an account, if it has confidential information, double make sure that you get the consent of the person saying, I'm forwarding this mail to this person for these reasons. Okay. And also, you can give a brief about the thread. So commonly what mistakes we make is that when we share an entire thread with someone, we will simply say, see below, or please do the needful. Even I was doing this. But imagine how much time the person has to take in order for them to go through all that email and the thread. It's quite time consuming and it's really not easy, right? So let's not make the job too difficult for someone. Rather, we've read the entire thread, right? So what we can say is this thread is about this, and the conclusion of the conversation was this, and I expect you to do this for this particular person. Just 3 lines about this is more than sufficient for the person to understand the entire thread. And if absolutely the person has to go through the entire thread, you can say such words. But rather, if they have to just understand the context, we ourselves can provide the context and share it with them. Okay. So that's about rules to follow while forwarding. That is, share confidential email with consent and brief about thread when you forward an entire thread to someone. Okay. And then comes the out of office message. When you craft an out of office message, I'm sure all of us here would have crafted or configured an out of office message. Let's just see if we have added all of these points to it. Okay. One is our unavailability period, saying from when to when I will be unavailable. Next is another person's contact details. So definitely a person is trying to reach out to us for something. So they will need an answer or they will want something from us. So we can redirect them to somebody else saying, on my absence, you can talk to this person. Next, include O in your subject line. Definitely mention it on a subject line saying this is an automated message, because the person shouldn't perceive it saying it is a personalized message and spend time on opening it. Rather, if they feel it is an automated message, they would know you're not available, and if they don't want to talk to anybody else, they won't have to open the mail itself, right? And then you have include your contact details in case of emergency. So there are cases when definitely somebody else cannot handle the case. It should be you. Then in that case, you can say if it's extremely emergency, then you can definitely contact me using this particular details. Okay. So let's just make sure that we have all of these points ticked when we craft our out of office message. Okay. So here I'm going to show you an example of the same. This is the example where the subject holds out of office. saying this is an out of office message. And you also have, hi, I'm out of office from this period to this period due to personal reasons. If you want, you can mention the reason. Okay, if you don't want, it is absolutely not necessary. You just have to say you're not available from this period to this period. And I'll be responding to your emails once I'm back. And during my absence, feel free to contact this person at this ID. Okay, and he'll be able to assist you if you have any questions. And if the matter is urgent, you can call me at this number and you can sign off. Okay, so this is how a out of office message should look like. All right, and then avoid common mistakes. What are the common mistakes that we usually make? Is missing attachments. Sometimes what happens, we will send them a particular mail and then we will think I missed the attachment, and then we will send a follow-up mail saying, please refer to this attachment for the previous mail. Never do that. When you send a mail itself, do check if you have attached the particular attachment, and then click on the send button. And then you have grammar errors. So we already talked about this topic, so I don't want to emphasize more. Just make sure you don't make any grammar errors. Missing punctuations. If you miss the punctuation, the way the message is being perceived will be mistaken. So make sure you don't miss any punctuation. And then you have reply all, which is something we tend to do. Do not always click on the reply all unless and until you know for sure that all of these people pasted in this particular email is necessary or requires to receive a response from me. Okay. If not, you are just adding threads to their inbox, which is not even relevant to them. That's going to clutter their inbox, which we don't want to do, right? So before hitting the reply all button, make sure that you know who you are sending the mail to. Then you have wrong font. So as we already discussed, it might hurt the eye or it might be difficult for the person to read. So make sure you stick to the right fonts or standard fonts. So avoid these mistakes at all cost. But now I'm gonna show you a trick. Okay, even if you've made these mistakes, how you can instantly correct them even if you click on the send button is you have undo send option in Zoho Mail. Undo send is it provides you with 5 to 30 seconds depending on your specification, where you can bring back the email to the draft section even after you click on the send button. How would you do that? Is already undo send is configured, but I would like to show you how it is done as well. Here you can search undo send. All right. And you'll be able to specify the number and say this mail has to be retrieved even after I send the send button if I wish to. So I have configured, and once then when I hit the send button, I'll be able to bring back the email until the specific time, that is 20 seconds. Clicking the undo, now you can see the particular message has been brought back to the draft section, right? So again, you can find all the mistakes. If you found one, then you can correct it and then send it. So there was a study which was conducted where after you click on the send button, in the next 10 seconds is when you will find the actual fault of the particular mail. If you're wondering where the study was conducted, it was just my personal experience. I always tend to do that. So make sure you configure an undo send for at least 30 seconds. That is the maximum limit. Set it for 30 seconds. And once you send it, if you don't find any mistakes, well and good. It will be sent automatically after 30 seconds, right? But if you do find a mistake, then think about it. This is going to be your lifesaver. You can bring it back and you can save yourself from a lot of embarrassments. So that is about your undo send. And the next did you know is about recalling your emails. Let's say the undo send period is also over. It is successfully sent to the person. And then is when you find the mistake. Then what would you do? You can make use this recalling email option. And how would you go about it is you can click on the new mail option. You can create a new email, right? And you can send the email. So once you send, this undo send is going to allow me to undo this action until the specific time. And only after that, it will be successfully sent. After it is successfully sent as well, I can bring back the email. Okay, but please note the recipient will be sent a notification saying a recall attempt was made. But you will still be able to successfully recall the email. Another thing is, if they've opened the email, then there is no use of recalling it. Okay. So now I'll go to the sent folder here and I'll choose the particular mail. This is the mail. And I'm clicking on the stick icon here. And when I do that, I'll be able to recall this email by clicking on this option. Okay. Clicking on OK. An attempt is made. And the mail has been successfully recalled, right? So here you can see the mail has been recalled and you can see that it has been brought back. So here what we need to note is this recalling feature only works within the organization. It cannot be used for emails that you've sent outside the organization. Okay, so that's about your recalling emails. And then moving on, checklist for a perfect email. Now that we saw a lot of topics, that is starting from your email ID, how to create it and how to greet people, how to phrase your subject line and how to initiate, how to tell the actual points, how to conclude, how to sign off, how to create a signature, and what are the mistakes to avoid. This is the last topic where you see the checklist for a perfect email. That is, add the right recipients and verify. Okay, you never know. Certain times the recipient who you're trying to send will have names which are very familiar, but the spelling will be very weird. Okay, because you never know how a person spells their name. So we will think this is the actual person we're trying to send the mail to, but that might go wrong. So make sure when you send a mail to someone, you check the recipient if they are the actual person you're trying to send the mail to, and then add them. Then you have make your subject clear and concise. It shouldn't be too lengthy or too short. It should have the right number of words and it should actually voice the actual content of the email. Create message of the email with direct information. Do not use fancy words. Do not use extra words. Just say what you want to say in the mail in a polite manner. That's the next point. Sound polite. That is also very important. You cannot obviously, our intention is not that, but just to state, if you just finish a statement without any words to include to make it more polite, it will look like you're commanding them or you are putting this out in a dominating manner. Let's not do that. Let's never leave space for those assumptions. We'll just sound polite in our sentences. And then add the attachment. You should check that if you've added the attachment, and then you can send the mail. Insert a perfect signature. So you can create a perfect signature and insert them in your formal conversations. And last of all, proofread for grammar and spell check so that your email is not perceived to be something where they feel that this person hasn't spent enough time or hasn't given the enough importance while crafting this mail. Never leave space for those kind of thoughts. So always proofread for spell checks and grammar errors. So these are the points you have to keep in mind when you compose an email. Okay. Now, last of all, this tip is just an extra point. This doesn't come under email etiquette as such. Taking charge of your inbox management. So as much I emphasize about how much you have to respect another person's time, the first person should be yours, right? So here, to save your time, you can use tagging, folders, options as such, features as such, in order for you to organize your inbox better. When you have your inbox all organized, you know when to reach out to an email, you know where it resides, and immediately you can get to it and you can attend to it. But if it is not, it'll be quite chaotic. You won't know where the email is residing. You will just search for it all day and then you won't be able to find it. And then you will even forget it about it later. That's going to cause a lot of problems. So keep your inbox organized so you know well where what is found. Okay, so you can use such features in order for you to keep your inbox all organized. Now, last of all, just about Zoho Mail. Zoho Mail has a lot of features across all the plans it contains. So if you are already a Zoho Mail user, you can choose to upgrade and also see what are the features available in the upgrade plans. And you can also reach out to us for us to give you a better idea of how you can benefit from the same, Or if you're new to Zoho Mail, you can also explore all the plans available first, see what are all the features that we have in hand. And if you want to connect with us to have a better idea of how this can help you with your business growth, we would be more than happy to do that. And for that, you have to reach out to us at presales@zohomail.com. All right. So that's about the session. We've come to an end of the session now. I've covered all the topics I wanted to cover today. I'd like to thank all of you once again for joining the session. I really hope to meet you all in the next session as well. All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.